Before he became a Hollywood legend and the king of martial arts cinema, Bruce Lee was just an ordinary teenager who loved getting into street fights in Hong Kong. He is now known as a cultural icon and a martial arts legend. But like all great warriors, he also started as a student with a teacher who guided him. And that teacher was none other than the Wing Chun Grandmaster, Yip Man. Before the scenes filled with intense kicks, shouts, and lightning-fast fists in the movie, there was a real story behind the legend. The young Bruce Lee was not yet the dragon the world would come to know. He was just a rebellious youth, naturally brave but lacking direction, until one day his friend William Chung introduced him to a quiet but courageous Wing Chun master. That was where a relationship began that would change not only their lives, but the history of martial arts itself. But to understand the origin of it all, we first need to go back to the beginning. In the life of the person who shaped Bruce Lee, even before he became famous as a symbol of strength and speed, there was a man whose name became the standard of respect in the world of martial arts. Yip Man, the mentor who taught not only how to fight, but also how to be disciplined, humble, and to use the body as an instrument of the mind. This story is not just about punches or kicks. This is about passing on knowledge, the making of a legend, and the deep bond between teacher and student. In this video, we will talk about how it all began. From Yip Man's first steps as a young warrior, to the day he took under his wing a young man who would change the world, the boy named Bruce Lee. But before we begin, don't forget to like this video. It means a lot to us content creators. Thank you. Now let's begin. Yip Man was the bridge for Bruce Lee from being a rebellious youth to becoming a legend in martial arts. But before he became a teacher, he also had his own long story of trials and perseverance. Yip Man was born on October 1, 1893 in Foshan, Guangdong, China. He grew up well off as the third of four siblings. Their life was comfortable, they were educated, had a house, and held a high position in society. But even though he was surrounded by luxury, his heart longed for something else. He wasn't content with just studying books. At the young age of 12, he was drawn to martial arts. That's where he met a well-known Wing Chun master, Chan Hua-shun. Chan was one of the most respected teachers in Foshan, and Yip Man became his 16th and last student. He studied under the old master's guidance for 3 years. Every day he repeated the same movements, the same kicks, the same form of discipline over and over again. But in 1909, Chan Hua-shun suffered a stroke and was forced to retire. For Yip Man, his world suddenly came to a halt. But his journey didn't end there. He was transferred to another skilled student of Chan, Nang Chung Sok. Under this new guidance, Yip Man further honed his Wing Chun, and as time went by, his understanding deepened, not just of how to fight, but why one must fight. At the age of 16, he moved to Hong Kong and studied at St. Urta Stephen's College, a school for the children of the elite. There he met Leong Big, a classmate who had connections to the world of martial arts. One day, Leong invited him to spar with a friend of their family. Yip Man was confident. He was used to winning, but when the fight came, he lost quickly. He couldn't keep up with the speed, the timing, the control. He asked for a rematch, but he was knocked down again. He was so embarrassed he almost wanted to hide the Wing Chun he knew. After just a few days, Leong came up and revealed a surprising truth. The person who defeated him turned out to be the son of his first master's teacher, Chan Hua-shun. That was when Yip Man's perspective changed. He left and approached Leong Big to continue his training. From then on, he humbled himself every day, accepted every mistake, and improved every move. Until Leong's death in 1911, Yip Man carried all he had learned, strength and wisdom. By 1916, at the age of 24, he returned to Foshan and became a police officer under the nationalist government. Although he was busy with service, he never gave up martial arts. He didn't have his own school, but he secretly taught his colleagues, friends, and even relatives the techniques of Wing Chun. He didn't know that those simple lessons would become the seed of a legend, a lesson that one day would ignite a fire around the world through his future student, the boy who would bring Wing Chun to Hollywood in America and into the hearts of every viewer, Bruce Lee. During this time, some of the most well-known students. Yip Man taught Liu Chao, Ku Wangyu, Kwok Fu, Lun Kai-chan, and Lui Ying. Among them, Chaku Wangyu was considered a genius because of his exceptional talent in Wing Chun. But eventually he chose to leave martial arts and enter the world of business. Because of this, there was a gap in the lineage, but his legacy did not end there. His students, Kwok Fu and Lun Kai, continued to spread Wing Chun, not only in Foshan, but throughout Guangdong. While the art of Wing Chun continued to flourish in the hands of his disciples, Yip Man began to live a quiet life. He married Chong Wing Sing. They had 4 children, 2 sons, Yip Chun and Yip Ching, and 2 daughters, Yip Na Sum and Yip Na Woon. But then the war came. When the Second Sino-Japanese War broke out in the late 1930s, Yip Man was caught in the middle of the chaos. He sided with the Kuomintang. The Kuomintang is China's nationalist party. There are no clear details about his actions, but there are reports saying that he joined the Central Bureau of Investigation and Statistics, a branch of the Nationalist Intelligence Service that investigates and conducts espionage against enemies. According to some stories, he was sent to Guangzhou in 1938 as an undercover agent and later returned to Foshan to continue the secret operation. Many accounts suggest this likely didn't happen. It's more believable that Yip Man went into hiding with his student Kwok Fu during the height of the war. After the war, Yip Man went back to Foshan and resumed his role as captain of the local police patrol. At the same time, he also began training his son, Yip Ching, in Wing Chun. But in 1949, things changed in China. The Communist Party won the Civil War and took control. As a former Kuomintang member, Yip Man was in a precarious position. So in the latter part of 1949, he chose to escape to Hong Kong with his family. It was a difficult decision that separated him from everything he was used to. When they arrived in Hong Kong in 1950, Cheong Wing Sing and the children temporarily returned to Foshan to retrieve some important documents. But before they could return, the border between China and Hong Kong was completely closed in 1951. From then on, Yip Man and Cheong never saw each other again. There, he was permanently separated from his wife, a wound he carried for life. At 56, Yip Man faced a new battle. This was no longer a battle of fists, but a battle for survival. He had no job, no money, and no connections. The former police captain in Foshan seemed to have no place in Hong Kong, but with the help of a few friends, he found a job at a restaurant, a simple job that would become the way for him to meet the Hong Kong Restaurant Workers Association. In Hong Kong, it seems like everything is just starting over for Yip Man. At first, he works at a restaurant, a quiet, simple man, and no one knows his true skill in martial arts. But in that place, there's a martial arts club led by Leong Xiong, who is also a well-known practitioner of Wing Chun. Despite Yip Man's passion for the art of fighting, he chose to keep his abilities hidden for now. He didn't want to reveal his past or the skills he brought from Foshan right away. But above all, he was battling a heavier, mostly hidden struggle, addiction to opium, which was still common in China and Hong Kong then. Buying on the black market was easy but very expensive, so his earnings slowly dwindled, especially since he was also sending money to his family in Foshan. In his desire to survive and support those he left behind, he was forced to find a way to earn more money. This is where a new chapter in his life began. In the early 1950s, Yip Man reached a desperate point. He didn't have much money. He also had a vice he needed to support, and he was far from his family. So he thought of using the only treasure he had, Wing Chun. It wasn't because of ambition or a desire for fame, but out of necessity. Yip Man's first students were not wealthy or famous people. Most of them were workers from the Restaurant Workers Association. ordinary people who just wanted to learn how to defend themselves. Others were young people consumed by anger and fear during Hong Kong's turbulent period, a city then gripped by tension and violence. For them, Wing Chun was not just a discipline, but a way to regain confidence and courage. But it wasn't easy for Yip Man when he established a school. Many students would come, but they would also leave after a few months. There was not enough money, not enough equipment, and often not enough food. He had to move his class several times, first on Castle Peak Road in Sham Shui Po, then on Lee Tat Street in Yau Ma Tei. Despite the difficulties, there was still hope. Some of his students improved their skills and also established their own Wing Chun schools. They joined sparring matches against other martial arts styles, and most of the time, they won. These victories strengthened the name of Yip Man. Gradually, word began to spread throughout Hong Kong about this mysterious teacher who could defeat any opponent using only speed, timing, and discipline. As his reputation grew, so did his influence and following. It was as if everyone revered him whenever he was around. He also passed away. Chong died of cancer. Although they had been apart for a long time and Yip Man had another woman, he still grieved deeply. He never introduced Shanghai Po or their child to his sons, Yip Chun and Yip Ching. By 1962, Yip Man's two sons also arrived in Hong Kong. After a long period of separation, that's where a part of his family was somehow reunited. As Yip Man's name continued to grow in Hong Kong, the type of people who wanted to study under him also changed. From ordinary workers, more and more wealthy and professional people were attracted to the unique effectiveness of Wing Chun. Because of this, his financial situation gradually improved, but he still wasn't able to completely give up his vice. In 1967, Yip Man and his students founded the Wing Chun Athletic Association. Its purpose was said to be to promote Wing Chun, but according to some, it was also a way to help him maintain his income, especially since he continued to use opium. One of Yip Man's former students, Duncan Leung, once said that his teacher used some of the students' payments to support his opium habit, something that made the old master's life even harder, as if fate's blows were never ending. Because in 1967, his lover, Xiang Haipo, also passed away due to cancer. Their child, Ipsi Yua, was left behind, who would later follow in his father's footsteps as a Wing Chun practitioner. Despite Yip Man's turbulent personal life between vices, sadness, and the loss of loved ones, he never abandoned his art. As his name became more well-known in Hong Kong, he also strengthened the foundation of Wing Chun in the modern era. But when talking about Yip Man's true legacy, it cannot be separated from one name, Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee, a martial arts and film icon, was a young student of Yip Man in the 1950s. The period of their training became one of the most famous chapters in the history of martial arts. Several decades later, this was made into a movie in the Yip Man series starring Donnie Yen, where a scene showed the young Bruce Lee approaching the respected master to ask for training. In Yip Man 3, it showed how Bruce's desire to become a disciple of Wing Chun began. And in Yip Man 4, you can see the deeper connection between the two. When Yip Man visited America to see his former student, who is now a global star, Yip Man's influence on Bruce Lee is undeniable. Under his guidance, Bruce learned the fundamental principles of Wing Chun: discipline, speed, and proper use of energy. Later on, Bruce used those lessons to develop his own philosophy in martial arts, Jeet Kune Do, a style focused on being simple, fast, and effective. But if you think Bruce was the only one who learned, you're mistaken. Because of Bruce Lee's worldwide fame, Yip Man and Wing Chun also became more well-known around the world. In short, the student brought his teacher into the history of legends. But how did it all begin? How did Bruce Lee come under the guidance of Ip Man? According to research and stories from people close to them, Bruce was very different from the serious and disciplined warrior image we see in movies. As a child, Bruce was mischievous, stubborn, and frequently fought. He grew up as an actor in Cantonese movies, but outside the camera, he was a member of a street gang called the Junction Street Tigers. Because of all the street fights, Bruce realized that he needed to learn how to fight better, not just to win, but to survive. One day, his friend William Chung, who was already a student of Ip Man, introduced him. Chung saw the potential in the young Bruce, so he brought him to his teacher. At that time, Bruce Lee was only 15 years old and had no idea that the man he was about to meet would become the foundation of his legendary status. Ip Man accepted Bruce, but he didn't teach him personally right away. Instead, he was first handed over to one of Ip Man's most veteran students, Wang Shunliang, a skilled fighter who was an expert in Wing Chun. Wang was the first to teach Bruce the basic principles, footwork, timing, and proper distance in a fight. And as expected, young Bruce learned quickly. Because of his rapid progress, Ip Man soon took notice of him. Gradually, he became directly involved in Bruce's training. He didn't just teach him fighting techniques, but also the philosophy behind the art, how to use the mind before the body, and how to stay calm even in the midst of chaos. This is where Bruce began to understand the depth of martial arts. And from there, one of his most famous lines was born, "Be water, my friend." A simple sentence that reflects the essence of Wing Chun, the ability to adapt, to flow, and to remain strong in any situation. But even though the beginning was good, Bruce's journey inside Ip Man's school was not easy. Because of his speed, talent, and former career as a child actor, some of his fellow students began to envy him. Some even tried to get him expelled from school by using discrimination against him. The reason was that Bruce's mother was Eurasian, which means she had Western blood. For some, they believed it was wrong to teach the secrets of Chinese martial arts to a half-foreigner. But Ip Man stood up against that tradition. He resisted arguments about race or pure blood. He saw Bruce's determination, and above all, he saw the potential of a young man who could carry Wing Chun to the next generation. That decision to teach Bruce Lee despite all the opposition became the most important step in the history of Wing Chun. And as time passed, the young man he once defended would be the one to introduce that art to the whole world. Even though Ip Man defended him, it cannot be denied that some of Bruce Lee's classmates were left with deep feelings of anger and jealousy. Bruce had to face the complicated situation at school, the envy, the racial prejudice, and the challenges of youth, while continuously striving to hone his martial arts skills. But in what seemed like defeat, this became the fuel for his determination. This is where the resilience was formed that he carried with him until he became a legend. Even though it was full of challenges, Bruce continued his training under Ip Man and Wang Shunliang. In the following years, Bruce admitted that his initial reason for studying Wing Chun was not entirely pure. He just wanted to learn how to fight his rivals. Regardless of his motive, his dedication and talent made him stand out. The things taught by Ip Man, the technical use of the body, the philosophy of Wing Chun, and the discipline needed to excel, all of these became the foundation of becoming an exemplary warrior. But no matter how good he was at martial arts, Bruce's problems didn't go away immediately. The chaos in the streets and his involvement with the gang continued. Because of this, his family decided that for his safety, Bruce should be sent to the United States when he was 18 years old. That was where his formal training with Ip Man ended, but his journey was not over yet. In America, a new chapter began. Here, he continued to hone his art, established his own schools, and shared his knowledge with those who wanted to learn. Over time, Hollywood was captivated by his charisma and fighting skills. From being a former young student, Bruce Lee became a global star and the most influential person in the history of martial arts cinema. His movies didn't just introduce kung fu to the world, he also changed the face of the action genre. Since then, fight scenes in movies were no longer just brawls. Because of Bruce Lee, they became an art and a philosophy of movement. But even now, there's one question that still lingers in the minds of fans. Who would win if Yip Man and Bruce Lee fought each other? It's an entertaining thought, but not an easy one to answer. Yes, Yip Man taught Bruce Wing Chun, but he didn't complete his full training under the master. Yip Man, on the other hand, spent decades developing his art as a disciplined and skilled teacher. In terms of technique and experience, Yip Man likely has the advantage. But the beauty of the fight lies in the transformation of the student, because Bruce Lee did not remain in the shadow of Wing Chun. He used it as a foundation to create his own philosophy, Jeet Kune, a martial art based on practicality and adaptability. He combined different styles of martial arts to create a new kind of movement, free, fluid, and not confined by old rules. In the imaginary battles often discussed by fans, many say that if Bruce Lee and Yip Man were to face each other, it would be two generations, discipline versus innovation. In this situation, Bruce Lee would most likely use Jeet Kune, his own fighting philosophy focused on speed, adaptability, and practicality. Meanwhile, Yip Man, with decades of experience and a deep understanding of Wing Chun, would be an opponent who would not be easily shaken. One is like water, adapting to the flow of the situation, while the other is like a rock. And not easily changed, who will win? No one can say. Because honestly, this fight will remain just a hypothetical, a what-if born from our admiration. What matters is they both left a legacy. More than any competition, it's the inspiration they continue to give to martial artists and action fans all over the world. But behind the legend came a sad ending. In the final stage of his life, he faced one of his toughest opponents, throat cancer, an illness that gradually weakened his body. On December 2, 1972, he passed away in Hong Kong, 7 months before Bruce Lee also passed away. Before he died, Yip Man made a very profound decision. Despite his weakness, he recorded his final Wing Chun demonstration so his knowledge would endure after he was gone. In that video, you can see him practicing with a wooden dummy, clearly struggling and often stopping to catch his breath. One of his children stands by his side, ready to help if needed. It's a scene that was brought to life again in the movie Yip Man Kartoyatro, and to this day, it's one of the most painful yet most powerful memories of his legacy. But his death was not the end of his story. To this day, millions of people around the world continue to study Wing Chun. Each one carries a part of Yip Man's teachings and spirit. For many, he was not just a teacher. He exemplified discipline, respect, and perseverance. His life is a reminder that true strength is not only seen in punches or kicks, but in the ability to stay true to one's principles, even in the midst of hardship. In the movies, we often see Yip Man as an almost perfect hero, steadfast, undefeated, and seemingly more than human. But in reality, he was a man full of humility and sacrifice. He is not a legend because of his fights, but because of his perseverance, his way of teaching, and his dedication to continuing the art of Wing Chun. It's true, movies expanded his name and made Yip Man a cinematic immortal. His own son, Yip Chun, was even the first to portray him in the movie Bruce Lee, the Man, the Myth in 1976. But now, with Danny Yen being the most famous to portray Yip Man in modern times, did he feel anything after Yip Man 2? He said that maybe making too many movies about Yip Man could be too much. The true lesson might get drowned out by all the fame. And it's true. With so many versions coming out, Yip Man is slowly becoming like a legend, no longer real in the eyes of some people. But behind all of that, the truth remains. Yip Man is not a myth. He was a real person, a teacher, and a father. Despite all his weaknesses, he left behind an everlasting legacy.